Welcome to Cage Minds Uncensored. I'm Micah Frankel. Hope you're doing well. I had a fun weekend this past weekend. My first commentary gig, thanks to American Fight League. The stream is still available on the Facebook page. Cage Minds Combat Sports News was out in Las Cruces for Southwest Brawl 7. Night got started off early if you tuned in with us with the Las Cruces Thug Life dance group. We saw them twice in the night, also after the co-main event. American Fight League brought a high-paced show. Fight after fight after fight, as running them out, just continuing the action. Not a lot of fluff until we got up to that dance recital in between the co-main event and the main event, but for the most part, well-timed, high-paced, kept the action going, and the fighters delivered. I mean, if you're the kind of person that feels value in decisions and a long night of action, I don't know if this is the event for you. We saw 2 unanimous, 1 split decision. Gotta say that the fight of the night then would be that split decision. The first fight that we had, Joseph Tapia and John Calderon. Calderon relentlessly trying to take this fight to the ground, but really unsuccessful at doing so. A lot of good striking shown off by Tapia and good scrambling in taking the split decision victory. So that was our fight of the night, because that was honestly the closest contested fight of the night. It deserved it. Went to war. Also, though, a close run-up was our featured prelim with our featured amateur fight, with Lamar Harris versus CJ Boston, ending in a second-round submission. Both guys landed big leather on each other, went for the kill, exacerbated a lot of energy early on, and were both gassed. Some scrambling, and eventually it was Harris. Just that little more effort in being able to get the position, get on top. Boston makes a mistake in trying to scramble back up and gets submitted. So big win for Lamar Harris. Richard Jennings, also with a very impressive performance. I had interviewed him prior to the event. The 4th degree Taekwondo black belt. Showed off some grappling skills and good technique. He can strike and he knows it. A good time to get in there and actively grapple while you're in the amateurs. Aaron Taylor wanted to throw his hands, but in the end, resorted back to his takedown game a lot in a scramble off a takedown. Danny Telemontes dislocates his elbow. Aaron Taylor, who I also had the chance to interview prior to this one, now 2-0. Cody Davidsworth, who we had a chance to also talk to, gets out-scrambled. Ivan Rios, the jiu-jitsu player, submits the wrestler. Very technical back take, trapped the arm, and got his arm under the neck. A beautiful rear naked choke by Ivan Rios. A lot of fun action. Quick results up at cageminds.com. The link, again, still there to go back and watch the event up on Facebook or up on cageminds.com. The stream is still active. The pro card, Wangandara catching Stephen Ojeda in a rear naked choke, getting the arm under the throat, and when Ojeda tried to roll out of the position of having his back taken, it was too little too late as the choke was already cinched up. A huge victory in his pro debut for Wangandara. Kobe Ortiz, awkward style, low hands, kind of moving to his own beat, off timing and exploding in with big overhands. Catches Randy McCarty with a right, put down McCarty, and follow up ground and pound for the victory. In the main event, Andy Varela made quick work of Geraldo Chaparro, getting the takedown, and then going for the Mighty Mouse-esque, I call it, Kimura, where you're able to then transition to the armbar. But while Chaparro is focusing on the defense of his hands, Varela is cinching up an inverted triangle. Chaparro did explode, trying to switch the position, but the submission was sunk in, and Varela gets the submission victory in just under 3 minutes, improving to 3-1 now as a professional. There was a couple fights on the amateur side we left out. You can check out the full results. Varela, 3-1. Excited to see where that lightweight goes next. Gandara at 145. We got a lot of talent out here in the Southwest from 155 and below, so can't wait to see these guys on the local scene once again. That was Saturday. You also had Saturday, you had Glory kickboxing action between the UFC Fight Pass Glory Super Fight Series, which was headlined by interim light heavyweight champion Pavel Krunkovov, dismissing of Myron Dennis with a unanimous decision. Dennis had his moments, but was getting caught by big hooks, busted up, nose bloody by the end of the fight. Pavel cannot wait to be able to get at Zurl to try to unify the light heavyweight title. The main card had a title unification bout as Roman Van Roosmalen, with his classic forward pressure, big hooks, and finishing his combinations with nasty leg kicks, wore down Kevin Van Nostrand in once again retaining the Glory featherweight champion. The interim champion, it was not his night. You saw former welterweight champion Simon Marcus TKO, the lone TKO of the event, taking care of Zach Wells in about 75 seconds. The Jamaican Canadian on a mission to get his title back. In the world of boxing, Anthony Joshua adds another heavyweight title to the litany of belts he's carrying around. Joshua takes a unanimous decision win over Joseph Park. First time in his career that Joshua sees the decision. 21-0 now, 20 wins, I believe, by knockout. This is the lone decision. Some call it controversial. It's boxing. Is anybody surprised? But now this again leads to what we all want to hear. Will the talk start? Supposedly they're going to start. Do we get to see Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder? When I talk to the boxers that I know and cover boxing here locally, I've asked these guys before. In MMA, we understand that the UFC belt holds a certain level of prestige, that most fighters would recognize the UFC champion as the true world champion. What is the belt in boxing that you guys recognize on that stature, that level? Most that have talked to me, Fidel Maldonado, Josh Pitbull Torres, they tell me it's the green belt, the WBC title. Well, that belt in the heavyweight division is held by Deontay Wilder. It seems like every other belt, IBO, WBO, all these different ones that I cannot exactly remember how the alphabet soup of them goes, they are all procured by Anthony Joshua. It's time to have Wilder versus Joshua. 21-0, 40-0. You just wonder with the politics of boxing how long it will take to make this one happen. You wonder still where Dana White and that Zuffa boxing is. And I only bring that up because they made the outrageous offer towards Anthony Joshua. And I wouldn't be surprised if the debut of Zuffa boxing is trying to do the Joshua-Wilder matchup. You know that they like to make a big splash. So we had kickboxing, MMA on the local scene, M-boxing last weekend. A lot going on. Looking towards this weekend, and there's even more going on. You've got a 4-pack of events on Friday, 2 huge events on Saturday, and the breaking news that has just captivated everybody, the Ferguson-Nurmagomedov matchup actually really does appear to just be jinxed. Tony Ferguson injures and tears up his knee, apparently leaving set from a TV interview. Really? April Fools? It's too unbelievable to be true, but it really is true. It seems like it's so true that even the UFC and Dana White are no longer inclined to want to make Nurmagomedov versus Ferguson because the matchup has been so jinxed. Which raises the pondering question, well, what do you mean you're not going to make the matchup? Ferguson just 6 months ago won a interim title. He's still in the title picture no matter what happens on Saturday, you would figure. Well, obviously now the UFC had to make a decision. What do you do? Nurmagomedov's a star. You want to keep Nurmagomedov on the card. Well, there were a couple options, and let's just throw this out there real quick before we get to where we are. You could have had Conor McGregor, because apparently when Max Holloway had to pull out of UFC 222 against Frankie Edgar, Conor McGregor wanted that fight. So Conor McGregor should have wanted this Nurmagomedov fight. That would have made the most sense. There are 3 guys in the lightweight title picture that we've been talking about. Nurmagomedov, Ferguson, McGregor. McGregor versus Nurmagomedov. That would have made sense. Okay, visa issues overseas, no fight license, not in shape, a day's notice. What else can we do? Well, let's look at the card. And real quick, let's just count how many lightweight bouts, 155-pound bouts, are scheduled for UFC 223 besides Nurmagomedov's bout. Well, you do got Chiesa versus Pettis, you do got Iaquinta versus Felder, you do got Lozon versus Gritzmacher, and Dunham versus Alban Mercier. So it's only like there's 4 of them. And let's see, are there any other dudes ranked? Well, I believe that Chiesa is ranked, I believe that Iaquinta is ranked, and I believe that Dunham is ranked, and that's all in the top 15. So would any of those guys have made sense to possibly step in and replace Tony Ferguson? Well, let's think about, where is this fight? Brooklyn, New York. Al Iaquinta on a 5-fight win streak, Long Island own, heavy-handed knockout artist. And he's taking on Paul Felder. Felder getting a big opportunity because Felder, of the two, is the unranked one. Paul Felder also has a side gig at the UFC commentary desk. So me, just being me, getting crazy, I would have offered the fight to Al Iaquinta. Don't know if the UFC did, if he turned it down, but I would have offered Nurmagomedov, Iaquinta, #1 contender bout as the co-main event, move Nami Yunus and Jacek up to the main event, and put Paul Felder next to John Anik, Jimmy Smith, and Joe Rogan for a 4-man commentary booth due to the circumstances. But that's not what happened, because the UFC didn't move guys around. And I only came up with that crazy thought of moving guys around because of Renan Barão not being medically cleared to fight in California, and then Joe Soto fought TJ Dillashaw for a UFC title. Just because we've seen something like that, I was thinking maybe just work with guys on the card. But the UFC instead has called in Max Holloway. Okay, so now the featherweight champion is moving up. There's several ways to look at this. One, let's be respectful. Max Holloway walking the walk, talking the talk, fighting anybody. Talked about maybe willing to go up to lightweight. It's a big move. It's an intriguing fight, stylistically. But the traffic jam effect it causes between 45 and 55 causes a conundrum to me. Not to mention Brian Ortega, who also supposedly was offered Nurmagomedov, accepted, but Holloway had dibs on accepting first, and the UFC was just waiting to hear back from Holloway. I still want to see Holloway versus Ortega. And by the way, what is Holloway doing fighting 4 weeks later? I mean, 4 weeks ago was UFC 222, and he had to pull out of that fight against Frankie Edgar due to a lower extremity injury. Did Edgar know that Holloway was going to be ready 4 weeks later? That was just a slight pushback. That, bro, you really didn't need to beg to stay on the card to fight Ortega. I mean, Holloway is ready right around the corner, so it makes it even more nonsensical what happened at 222, that Edgar fought Ortega when Holloway just seems to be ready right away. It boggles my mind that we can have 4 other lightweight fights. That you can have a lightweight division with, I swear there's like 150 guys in the division. When you look at the roster, the same thing with featherweight. So we're talking about 300 guys for 2 divisions, and we're now putting just 5 guys at the top of both divisions. You know that the winner of this fight, Nurmagomedov versus Holloway, is going to be talking about Conor McGregor. So you've got Holloway, Nurmagomedov, McGregor, Ferguson, if he's allowed back in, because supposedly injuries could take you out of the title picture, but not if you're Nurmagomedov. And it doesn't matter if Conor McGregor sidelines himself for 17 months away from the UFC. He's still in the title picture. But Ferguson, with a freak last-minute injury, has seemed to draw the ire of the UFC. And then we still got Ortega. So you got 5 guys for 2 divisions that are actually 300 guys. A 300 fighter roster between the lightweight and featherweight division, and we're down to 5 guys fighting for both belts. This is the effect of the big fight era, and it's a little sickening. But we can also look at it in the aspect right now with what's going on, that this should be a great fight. Automatically, you're looking at the betting lines, and a minus 475 favorite is Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov was in training for a 5-week fight, or for a 5-round fight, had done a full training camp, was ready for Ferguson. Now, yes, this will be different because Holloway is able to switch up, southpaw to orthodox, obviously a more boxing-centric fighter, but Nurmagomedov was expecting a much more credible grappler to test his ability, and so far, few and far between have been able to stuff the relentless grappling, ground and pound, and ferocity that Khabib Nurmagomedov has brought into each fight. Holloway will have to use his plethora of jabs, crosses, and hope to beat up Nurmagomedov and slowing him down, but Khabib has just walked through every shot that anyone has hit him with and forced the fight into his realm, doing it to Dos Anjos, doing it to Johnson, doing it to Barbosa on short notice. Having just came off the injury, we don't know how much he was really training, but Holloway, obviously, like a true warrior, ready to jump in. These are the things that legends are made of, and obviously, you can't really marketably get hurt from taking a loss from Nurmagomedov. You're moving up a weight class. Nurmagomedov is a beast. This is a short notice fight. There's a lot of positives to spin this for Max Holloway. I just would rather see Holloway Ortega. You wonder sometimes about the build-up for a UFC fight, if it's really necessitized when we can make what this weekend is the equivalent of a super fight. The number 2 contender in the lightweight division, possibly, arguably, the top healthy, wanting to be active lightweight in the world right now against the top featherweight in the world right now. It's a super fight that the UFC is putting together on 6 days' notice. And it's an intriguing situation. You gotta wonder, what's next for Ferguson? You're more than figuring that the winner of this fight is calling out McGregor, and if Holloway so wins, does McGregor-Holloway happen at 150 and the winner just gets both belts? Do we really care about weight classes? We're shunning 150 guys out of the title picture, or 295 guys out of the title picture because they're not big draws already. Like I said, you want a ready-made 55er to fight for the lightweight title. Al Iaquinta was right there on the card on a 5-fight win streak. Would have been a huge opportunity for the New Yorker to step up on days' notice, take on Nurmagomedov. I thought that would have been a great storyline, just seeing what the UFC had did in the past. This is a huge opportunity for Holloway, but I think he's behind the 8 ball in this one. Nurmagomedov is the favorite. I don't know if we want to call it the staggering 475, 500 favorite, but it's going to be hard to imagine, even with Holloway's brilliance at distance control, of him being able to stifle Nurmagomedov. I watched Holloway versus Lamas, and Holloway did a very good job with several different techniques, from head pressure to crossface to limp legging to defending with the guillotine on getting out of the single leg. But it's the underhook battle, and it's the trips with the feet. You got to wonder how Holloway will deal with the judo black belt that Nurmagomedov is, not just that traditional wrestling style. Again, also, on this UFC 223 card, you had another title fight. Thug Rose Namajunas in the rematch with Yoni and Jacek. Namajunas finished the first fight early, and I truly do believe that the best avenue of victory for Namajunas is, again, an early victory. We've seen Jacek in several fights be a slow starter. A la the same problem as Donald Cerrone. The slow startiness, she gets hit with some shots, you can take advantage of that. I believe that if they do hit the ground, the more well-rounded grappler is Namajunas. But Jacek, doing the diligent work that she has been with her wrestling, we've seen her stop a lot of takedowns. It's a buildup of momentum for Jacek. The first round is the best optimal time to strike for Namajunas. She has to be able to strike and get the finish early, hurting with strikes and getting the submission, or being able to outstrike. The deeper this fight goes, the more comfortable and the more into her flow and her combinations, fitting with those brutal leg kicks, Jacek will be. Jacek, the challenger, again still the betting favorite coming into this one. I believe confidence is a big factor, and that's why I believe in Namajunas. You got to wonder, how does this week go? Does Jacek try to handle the mental warfare in a different manner, or is she still as brash and cocky as ever? It seemed to just be who she is, but not playing into that mental warfare. Last time from Namajunas, won the fight. A lot to be seen this week in the build up to the fight. I also mentioned Iaquinta a couple times here. That would be the other fight that I'm really looking forward to on the main card. Iaquinta, even though I believe he should have got that big opportunity, it just would have made more sense to me. The heavy-handed New Yorker who has the wrestling background, training out of that Serra-Longo Academy, taking on Paul Felder, who's been training with Rufus Sport. Felder, great kicks, nice hands, a submission game and grappling game that has been underrated, but a guy who's kind of been hit or miss in some performances. Powerful striking, and that one a fight of the night candidate. Look on down the card to the FS1 prelims, the featured prelim in the women's strawweight division, a top 10 matchup, another great stack matchup on this card. You got Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Felice Herring. Kowalkiewicz, I would give her the advantage in the hands. Their kicking skills are pretty even. The grappling, once you talk about the submission game, it's in the favor of Herring. Kowalkiewicz has not been inclined to play the grappling game. This one is a big jump up in competition for Herring, who I guess, against all odds, has been making a title run, and this one will go a long way to catching up to Jessica Andrade, who probably will get the winner of Namajunas Jędrzejczyk. Other prelim to point out and feature from the FS1 prelims, Ray Borg, Brandon Moreno, another top 10 matchup. This one in the men's 125-pound division. Borg, the former title challenger, looking to rebound from that loss to Mighty Mouse. This one is going to be a cyclone of a scramble fest. I think that Ray is slightly better and slightly more fluid with his feet, where you see there's more of a herky-jerkiness to Moreno, and slightly better at the scrambles. This one goes all 3 rounds, a decision victory, and I see Ray Borg coming out with his hand held high. You got to figure that Joe Lozon and Chris Gritzmacher, that one is just going to be a fun brawl. Talking about fun brawls, you got to figure somebody's job is on the line in the feature Fight Pass prelim. Alex Caceres, Artem Lobov. You know that Caceres is going to want to use his unorthodoxness, put together a lot of kicks, try to keep Lobov at bay, and play the distance game where Lobov wants to get in close, try to make this a war in the pocket with big fists being thrown. Striker versus grappler, well, wrestler versus boxer, as Ashley Evans Smith and Beck Rollins meet in a women's flyweight matchup. If one of the other can put together the better kicking arsenal, I think it could shock the other opponent. You got to look for how Rollins defends those Evan Smith takedowns. Getting the card started, a featherweight matchup between Zabit Magomedsharipov, a prospect out of Russia, fighting with that Frankie Edgar, Mark Henry, Ricardo Lamas camp. A top prospect getting a lot of buzz, taking on Kyle Bosniak. Bosniak, a close decision win back in Boston not too long ago. Magomedsharipov, 14 victories, 12 finishes, 6 submissions, 6 knockouts. First 2 UFC fights have been ultra impressive. Been clean with his striking and finished both off with submissions. Zabit Magomedsharipov, top prospect there, kicking off the card to watch out for. This one is a stacked one on Saturday night, UFC 223. Definitely excited for it. Now, also, as I was thinking about going back to that lightweight fight real quick, one last thought. Nurmagomedov, Holloway, a fun fight, but you still got to think the traffic jam. Where does Brian Ortega fit in? And wouldn't there be any other lightweights? Just even you're giving the opportunity to Holloway, but you got a James Vick who's on a big win streak. The guys that we named that are on this card, you're not telling me that a Dustin Poirier, who's fighting next week against Justin Gaethje in the main event of UFC on Fox, he wouldn't jump at this, coming off some wins. A ton of momentum for Poirier. Same thing with Eddie Alvarez coming off of the win over Justin Gaethje. To me, pulling the reigning 45 champion on such short notice, I feel there could have been other matchups that would have made more sense, even though this one will be a fun fight. I'm looking forward to it on Saturday night. But again, just more saga from as the UFC turns. As I said, it's going to be a huge weekend of fights, and let's backtrack real quick. We're talking about Saturday in the UFC event. Let's go to Friday. Friday, there are 4 different events, including a Bellator doubleheader on the Paramount Network, Access TV, and UFC Fight Pass also bringing it. We'll start off with UFC Fight Pass, where Titan FC 49 goes down. Luis Gomes and Jason Soares battle for the featherweight title. Gomes 6-1, Soares undefeated at 10-0. You also have Rami Hamed defending the welterweight title against Jose Caceres. Cuban Olympic wrestler Michael Batista also going to be on that card. That's on UFC Fight Pass. On Access TV, you have CES MMA 49 from the Twin River Casino in Lincoln, Rhode Island. A double main event there, 2 titles on the line. Jason Norwood looks to challenge Chris Curtis in the main event for the welterweight title. Some sharp hands from Chris Curtis, who trains out with Sam Alvey at Team Quest. You also have Nate Andrews and Chris Padilla battling for the lightweight title. Andrews, a snake with great submissions and a very interesting striking style. Another Mark De La Grade trained fighter. Kayla Medeiros, Invicta FC vet, takes on Jenna Soriano. UFC vet Sean Soriano meets Jonathan Gary, who I had the pleasure of having him join me on Red Menace TV. You can check that on the ProView Network's YouTube channel last week for the Red Menace TV show, where it was a Cage Minds takeover. Talked to Jonathan about the upcoming fight, his start in mixed martial arts in Japan, and a whole lot more. The CES MMA 49 card also features undefeated prospect Marquise Brewster, who's ranked as the number 9 bantamweight in New England, already at 4-0, a young prospect to definitely keep a watch for. The Paramount Channel has Bellator 196 and Bellator Kickboxing. I'm going to change things up real quick on you guys, and we'll talk about the Bellator Kickboxing card. Real deal, Raymond Daniels, the Bellator welterweight champion, is going to be in the main event taking on Ijerbe Inouye. No clue how to say his name, but Daniels, the 2-touch spinning back kick knockout in glory. Ever since then, he has been must-see TV. A phenomenal striker who has really put the world on notice since entering the Bellator kickboxing arena. You have Australian legend John Wayne Parr on the card, and also Georgina Bars, undefeated 44-0 with 3 draws in kickboxing Muay Thai. Jorina is the woman who beat Cyborg on Lion Fights Bellator, scooping her up. That's the Bellator kickboxing card, which will proceed Bellator 196, the MMA card. You have Ed Ruth dropping down to 175 pounds, taking on Ian Pascal. Pascal, 24 professional mixed martial arts fights. Ed Ruth, a talented wrestling prospect, jumping up in competition, taking on a veteran. Adam Borox, on day's notice, is going to take on a short notice opponent, Theodore Nikolaev. Borox, this fight going down in Budapest, Hungary. Borox, the local favorite who has had several opponent changes, took this fight to remain on the card. All leading up to the main event. Former UFC lightweight champion Benson Henderson taking on Roger Morta. Morta, we have not seen him, I believe, nearly since, well, it feels like since he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the first mixed martial artist to do so, but he has been around, coming off of a disqualification win over UFC vet Haider Hassan. So much time away from high-level competition. You wonder what Horta has to offer coming into this fight. We know he's been doing a lot of work for many years at Tiger Muay Thai, so you're expecting the sharp striking skills. He's put out a lot of great prospects. So as a coach, Roger has been doing amazing things. Benson Henderson doing the same with the lab, Wolf staying active in the UFC and Bellator. Henderson has not looked in peak condition or at his top just has not performed or fought at his best since being in the Bellator cage. It's going to be interesting to see in Hungary which guy puts it together and puts on the bigger performance. So 4 events between Titan FC, CES MMA, Bellator MMA, and Bellator Kickboxing. A lot going on Friday. And then for you boxing fans, on Saturday, we do have the huge UFC 223 event in Brooklyn. But going on at the Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas, you have a 154-pound title unification bout as Israndi Lara, the WBA champion, looks to unify against Garrett Hurd, the IBF title holder. Hurd, a 27-year-old with a 21-0 record. Lara, 25-2-2, the 34-year-old. I've heard some people say that Lara could be the best boxer in that weight class. Getting a little older in the teeth, though. Interesting to see how that one will go down. Hurd comes in with a 2.5-inch reach advantage, a 4-inch height advantage. How will he be able to use those natural abilities to his advantage and implement them in the fight? UFC news next week, and we did say that there was going to be the UFC on Fox 29, the main event of Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. One fight we've lost from that card, though, is Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Matt Brown having to withdraw due to reportedly tearing his ACL. Matt Brown was on the verge of retirement before this fight. Interesting to see how it plays out, if retirement will still be in the cards for the local news and notes. A congratulations to Chris Cortez, the Force of One fighter. Made a successful pro debut this past Saturday, Amarillo, Texas, a first-round TKO. He was the 2017 Cage Minds New Mexico Regional Amateur Fighter of the Year. Very interested to see what Chris does as a professional. Coming up this weekend, some top amateur action, Real MMA in Las Vegas. Woody Salinas from Latrell Yee MMA is on the card. Ambrose Vigil and Dominic Yar from the Jackson Wink Academy will also be out there this weekend. Coming up, what you can expect here on the local scene, School of Hard Knocks is bringing MMA back to Hobbs, Havoc and Hobbs. That is April 21st. April 28th, Force of One Fighting Championships, Art of War in Clovis. May 4th, Legacy Fighting Alliance is in Valley, Colorado for LFA 39. May 12th, Chaos in Clovis 2 is presented by School of Hard Knocks Promotions. That's going to be boxing in Clovis. We have rumors of Holmes Boxing for Buffalo Thunder in May. Wrecking Crew Promotions and the Jackson Wink Fight Night have both been rumored for June around Isleta Casino. Also, June, there's a rumor of a possibility of Legacy Boxing Promotions being back at Route 66 Casino. The end of June, actually June 29th and 30th, right now it's rumored that June 29th will be American Fight League Southwest Brawl 8. And then the following night, up at Buffalo Thunder, June 30th, the Jackson's MMA series is expected to have an event. A lot of this is not confirmed yet, but just letting you guys know what the word around is. September 14th, American Fight League is going to present Clash of the Titans 3 at the Halleman Air Force Base. A ton of local events getting lined up for the rest of the year. It's going to be a busy summer this weekend. Like we said, if it's MMA, if it's kickboxing, if it's boxing, combat sports fans, there's a lot to enjoy this weekend. This has been Cage Minds Uncensored. Keep up with Cage Minds on Twitter and Instagram, Cage Minds MMA. Facebook, Cage Minds Combat Sports News, where you can still check out Southwest Brawl 7. Also, the YouTube channel is Cage Minds MMA Show. It's where you're checking out this. Everything is available at cageminds.com. A shout out and a thank you to Mac10, MMA CK10. Check them out on Facebook. Give them a like. Thank them for the support that they give to myself, Cutman, fighters all across the country. Again, thanks for tuning in and listening.